Hello, I'm Anna Delaney with IS&G. As AI transforms enterprise operations, regulations grow more stringent, and sustainability takes center stage, how are organizations rethinking end-of-life data management? Well, this is something we hope to answer in this preview of Blancco's upcoming webinar, Enterprise Data Sanitization and Disposition, what 2,000 global leaders reveal about 2025 trends. And I'm very pleased to be joined by Blancco Technology Group's Fredrik Forslund, VP and GM International. Hello, Fredrik.
Hi, pleasure to be here.
And Maurice Uenuma, VP and GM for the Americas. Great to see you, Maurice.
Likewise. Thank you for having us.
It's our pleasure. So, Fred, starting with you, let's start with the big picture. 2024 brought about some seismic changes, AI adoption, new regulations, sustainability reporting, and of course, evolving standards. So what prompted Blancco to launch this new research? And what do you think sets it apart from other reports in the industry?
Great topic to start on. And of course, we are experiencing some mega trends here. Over the last few years, we have seen how data protection has become more and more important. That drives from privacy regulation that is now covering most of the globe. 144 countries last time I counted. And then you combine that with the sustainability interest that is rapidly growing every year. And when you put those two together, you have a really interesting topic. And that's what we have doubled down in. And we will share some more insights around.
That sets the scene very well. Maurice, anything to add?
I would highlight some notable trends in technology itself. So we are seeing the rapid adoption of artificial intelligence. That I think is something that's obvious to everyone, alongside the continued expansion of Internet of Things devices that are capturing data and kind of sensing everything that we're doing. In the end user compute space, there is the upcoming Windows 10 end of support and end of life that we expect to drive an accelerated refresh of end user compute devices, and also alongside that the continued advancement in data storage technologies. So really, we're talking about new types of data bearing devices. We're talking about the growth in the supporting infrastructure behind all of that. And I think the net of all of those trends in the technology space is that there is more data to protect, more data-bearing devices to secure, and more end-of-life devices that need to be processed. So a lot happening in the technology space, and there are technical standards that are attempting to then keep up with those trends in technology. So we have the ISO IEC 27040 publication from last year. That is intended to and provides rigorous technical standards for securing storage media, data-bearing devices in the IT infrastructure, along with a new IEEE standard 2883, which provides technical standards for proper data sanitization. So a lot of these things have been coming together to serve as the impetus for this report.
Okay, very good. Well, to set the stage, could you just define data sanitization in today's context? Why should IT and security leaders be paying closer attention to how they manage data at the end of its life cycle? Fred, why don't you start us off?
So it's obvious with what has been shared already that you need to be in control of when data should be continuing its life and when you need to end its life, i.e. remove it. Data destruction, data erasure, data sanitization incorporates a lot of different terms. But this is the process when you are in control. You decide when it's happening, and you can optimize the security around it. So understanding data sanitization, knowing how to implement it, extremely important. And if we just look at Gartner, they have been telling us for the last few years that this is a C-level requirement. And we'll get into more detail about that in the report and the seminar as well.
Maurice, would love to hear your perspective as well.
Yeah, so given that understanding of what data sanitization is and how important it is, we wanted to understand how that ties in with some of the aforementioned trends, right? So for example, what does continued cloud migration and AI adoption mean in terms of handling data and devices at the end of life? We wanted to understand how these data privacy and data protection regulations were being adopted, what the compliance burden was on organizations and the cost of compliance. We wanted to get a sense of how sustainability is playing out within these organizations, right? How much of a driver is it and how is it affecting investments and behavior? And then kind of how is data sanitization or how is data at end of life being handled today? Who's doing it? What sort of standards are they applying, and how widely adopted are best practices in this process?
Well, Fred, looking at the survey findings, how are organizations currently handling end-of-life data and asset decommissioning, and what encouraging practices are you seeing first of all, and where are the critical gaps?
So just bringing in the word encouraging there is important. First of all, this is a global survey, so we will see perspectives from all over the world. So whoever is looking after a global organization, this is going to be really interesting. The encouraging part is that we will be able to draw out some very important best practices, how you can utilize modern IT infrastructure, how you can perform erasure over the network to make sure you don't have chain of custody issues, etc. So encouraging good best practices that we see occur, and it will be great value to share those.
Maurice, is there any room to improve?
Well, there is room to improve. Unfortunately, in many ways, many of these organizations have experienced data breaches in the last 1 to 3 years, and that includes data leaks. And so data leakage is really the sort of accidental leaking of data, due in many cases to improper handling of data and data-bearing assets. And so room to improve there, certainly. We also found that less than half of IT leaders in this survey were not actually aware of or up to speed on some of these global regulations around data protection and privacy, nor the technical standards for proper data sanitization. And there's just unfortunately a great percentage of these end-of-life devices that are simply being thrown away or shredded when there's the opportunity to reuse and recycle and repurpose them. And so the current default method of throwing away IT assets tends to be wasteful, costly, and negatively impactful to the environment.
And Maurice, of course, data sanitization extends well beyond end-of-life scenarios. So with regulations increasingly focused on retention limits and deletion rights, how do you see organizations managing data throughout its full life cycle?
Yeah, great question. So I think here it's important to understand there's a distinction between the life cycle of the data-bearing asset and the life cycle of the data itself, recognizing that data exists on many different assets and are moved between assets in various environments. And so as we consider that fact, in light of the explosion of data, there is an exponential growth in sort of the global data sphere, the amount of total data that's being created and stored. That data presents a risk. There's a risk of exposure of sensitive data, personally identifiable information, confidential data, and so forth. And so that larger data in many ways provides a larger attack surface, to use a information security term. And so there's a need to reduce and minimize data, to address redundant, obsolete, and trivial data or rot data, and to respond to data deletion requests consistent with various privacy regulations.
That's clear. Fred, a question for you. We're also seeing privacy, security, and sustainability start to converge in meaningful ways. How are IT and ESG leaders beginning to collaborate, and what's really driving this alignment?
So that's a great topic. We actually see some of that alignment also in the survey data that will be interesting to share. But why is that? Well, the natural explanation is that if you are focused on the circularity, the sustainability, of course, the number one enemy is that you actually destroy equipment before it has a natural end of life from a functionality point of view. But if you do practice physical destruction also to protect data, today you're actually aware of so many different challenges to achieve good control, good security. So if you're a security professional, you have a natural tendency to actually seek alternatives because you will have better security doing so. And that will align with the circularity and sustainability agenda. So there is a natural alignment here, and we'll double down into that topic. We also see recent standards that we will share more information about that also call out both security and sustainability, which is a very positive trend.
And Maurice, I mean, you both highlighted that the report highlights emerging standards. So why is it important for organizations to modernize their data sanitization practices in line with these evolving guidelines?
Well, the simple answer is technology is always evolving. And so the technical standards for properly managing those need to and do, in fact, evolve alongside of those. And so the organizations responsible for owning and managing them need to be current with them. The current sort of default standard in many organizations for data sanitization is NIST 800-88. That remains a very reliable standard. However, it's more than a decade old now. And some of the newer standards like IEEE 2883 account for higher density of data storage on storage media. They account for new types of storage media and some of the newer commands and capabilities of those technologies. So it's important to be aligned with those, and in turn also aligned with broader storage security standards like the ISO 27040.
Makes sense. So final question to you, Fredrik. What can attendees expect from this upcoming webinar? Why do you think this conversation is especially relevant now for leaders navigating this space between data protection, compliance, and innovation, of course?
So let's go back to where we started this conversation. We see the global megatrends. We have sustainability. We have data protection under heavy regulation. Those are not going away. They're just becoming stronger and stronger. So for you to understand those facets and understand how you can be compliant and benefit from best practices in how you deploy into your organization. So there will be some very practical advice and insights on how to maneuver innovation and new data patterns that all of us are experiencing. So yeah, I'm looking forward to a very fruitful discussion with lots of conclusions and advice.
Me too. Well, thank you, Fred and Maurice, for this excellent overview of the report. I'm looking forward to unpacking the findings further during the live session.
Fantastic. We'll do so together.
Thanks so much.
And to our audience, thank you for watching. Don't miss our upcoming live masterclass, Enterprise Data Sanitization and Disposition, what 2000 global leaders reveal about 2025 trends. We hope to see you there. For IS&G, I'm Anna Delaney.